This is session number 4, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
number
sounds like
4.
something like that.
Session number 4. And our topic is, are you charging what you're worth? Which is something that I struggle with, honestly. I struggle with that, if I was totally honest with myself. And I still do at times.
Take over about not charging what you're worth. You had some really good posts, so why don't you share some of that stuff?
Well, excuse me, Peter. First of all, when I looked at your email, I said, "Oh my goodness, this is going to be fascinating." So I really want to hear everybody's take. But let me just say this, Peter. You already touched on several things, but I want to just kind of fine tune it. Not that it needs any, Peter, but just to fine tune it to really put concrete into what people need to understand. First of all, if you're underpricing, as Peter mentioned before, you're going to have cash flow problems. And if you got cash flow problems, you also have stress problems. And when you and I are in stress mode, you're not at your peak mentally because that stuff carries over and spills over into your home life. If you're married or got a significant other, it's going to cause problems. If your business model is based on pricing, you're going to get into a price war that probably 118% of the time you cannot win. We're not going to be able to win a price war because there's always somebody who's more finance, better understands marketing, and they have better strategic partners, and they can just lower that price down. In America, John, I don't know if you remember this, years ago, AT&T publicly stated, and if you guys don't know, AT&T was a big telephone conglomerate. They said, we're going to lower our prices to the point that in 3 to 5 years, we're going to drive all our competitors out of business. And it was a giant lawsuit. They said, you can't do that because you're a monopoly. And so they split them up. And what that shows is you can't win a pricing war. Your cash flow is unstable. And Peter, I'm just stealing all your thunder. So, I'm your mentee, so don't hate on me too much. But as you said before, if you don't have the money and John comes along with an opportunity, or Alan or Dr. Annika, you can't take advantage of it. Why? Because you don't have the cash flow. Why don't you have the cash flow, Mark? Because you're chronically undercharging. And here's the other thing that I think we've all been through, maybe to different degrees. You're attracting the wrong customer base. These people will nitpick you and drive you insane. And because you're on that hamster wheel, as Peter likes to say, you put yourself in the box, you almost have no choice. You have to go along with what they say, when they say, because you need cash flow. There's too many negatives. Don't do it. If anything, try to structure yourself at a premium. You say, well, wait a minute, Mark, I don't have the skills. I don't have the, well, then I'm going to say, well, I'm going to go into John mode. Then you better work on getting them. Okay. Because the bottom line is you can't afford to be down here in this sea of competition. And John, Peter, Alan, and Dr. Annika are up here, and people are looking at you saying, Mark, why are you so cheap? You must not be as good as them. I said, oh, yeah, I'm as good as. Well, then why aren't you charging what they charge? So you have to understand part of what we do is, I don't want to say this word, Peter, please forgive me, image, perception. If I'm the lowest guy on the price, people kind of look over me and say, this guy isn't as good. Let me look for an alternative. That's what you're doing to yourself. You think, oh, well, now, let's be clear before John bursts my bubble. Let me say this and then I'll move on. There is something to be said for strategically lowering your front end price to break even because hey, once I get a customer, I'm going to sell them this stuff on down the line on the back end. Makes perfect sense. That's not what most of you are doing because you don't have a back end. So the point being, don't get into a price war. Stop undercharging. You got to get up to that next level. And if you're having trouble, Peter told you it's up here, and John told you it's up here, then you need to talk with us. And we can help you. Now, we can't do it for you. but we can help you get to that mental state where you realize you got to stop undercharging, because all you're doing, you're just staying on that hamster wheel. You're busy, but you're not productive. I've been there. Peter told you he's been there. I don't know if John's been there. I don't know if Alan's been there. I don't know if Dr. Annika's been there. It's not fun. So do yourself a favor. Listen to these panelists. Take what makes the most sense, start for where you are, and start building. And watch and see, doesn't your cash flow improve, your mindset improve, your outlook improve, and everything will start to get better. End of my soapbox rant. Thank you.
No, it's not the end, Mark. Sorry, John. I just have to say this. Stop apologizing. All right. That's what Annika said to me once, and I didn't think it was very smart. Stop apologizing, Mark. But secondly, I want to ask you this. And you said this word 5 times, undercharging. My question to you, my dear friend of many, many years, why do people undercharge? That's the whole point. Why do we do it? And if we know
that is
why,
the question of the century, my friend.
bear with me, because we need to get that out in the open. Okay, this is my gut reaction. Why do we undercharge? Sorry, John, I'll shut up in a minute. Why do we undercharge? And secondly, once we know that, then we know how we can fix it. If we don't know why, we can never fix the problem.
Sure.
All right,
Very true.
Mark?
Well, Peter,
that was not a rhetorical question.
I'm gonna refer to again to some of your wisdom. I think part of it has the first question is what's going on up here. Psychologically, I just don't feel that I'm worthy of charging enough money. Now, how and why I got there, who knows? But if I can get past that hurdle and understand that I am worthy, I have value, then the next thing is, well, what do we do about it? Well, that's the mechanics of kind of what we're talking about here. We got strategies and techniques and all that, but as John would say, that's irrelevant if we do not get that mindset change. Peter, this may sound arrogant, and I don't mean it to sound arrogant, but I'd say in these 4, this is the 4th episode, in the 3 episodes we've already done, there's more than enough meat for anybody who's sincere to have moved off center. There's no question. Why haven't they? Something's going on up here. And until, as John would say,
like imposter syndrome, right?
I'm sorry, couldn't hear.
Maybe things like imposter syndrome. You mentioned self-worth. Isn't that, am I correct in saying that, Annika? I'm not sure. This is not my area of expertise. But is it imposter syndrome a factor?
Could be. It is, and it's how we are brought up, because we are weaned to whatever the family had and used to that, and see money as our parents told us about money and the world around us, and and if we never seen a lot of money, it's hard to understand you can get a lot of money. And there are different things. And then also the other thing, that I don't think that it's worth what I'm doing. They already know this anyway, blah, blah, blah. So there are tons of different things going on here.
Yeah, now that's good. Underestimating the impact we can have on people, right? In other words, feeling inferior, is that right?
Yeah, isn't it? We we think that, who am I to do? We have this. We have these 2 men sitting here, Luther and right now I can't remember the other one. It's the Norwegian story guy sitting saying, "You're not worth more than anybody else." And we don't have any role models in our own lives. Most of us, most of people don't know very rich people.
Mm. Mm. Okay.
Alan's got his hand up, but just before he starts, one of the things that I talk about is there's no prize for being second cheapest. And if you want to be the Walmart of your industry, go for it, but you're going to fight for table scraps. And not even the table scraps for some of them, because like Mark brought up before with the big boys, you can get down to fighting for crumbs with out there scratching with the pigeons. Now, they're not in Canada, but Nordstrom's, for example, is a high-end department store in the US. One of the questions I ask is, the people that shop at Nordstrom's, can they shop at Walmart? Sure they can. Can the majority of the people that shop at Walmart, can they shop at Nordstrom's? No. They both sell clothes. They both sell a lot of the same products. Why do people choose to shop at Nordstrom's instead of Walmart? One, they want the quality. Two, they believe they're worth it. Mark alluded to it, Dr. Annika, Peter, 99% of it is all up here. People go into the coaching industry or various businesses and they look around to see what everybody else is charging. And then they want to undercut the price because I'm new, I can't do this. I talked to a young lady and she said she'd been in nursing for 29 years. She was going in to be a life coach. So I asked her what her rates were. She said, well, I'm just starting out. I can't charge a lot of money. And I said, excuse me, you got 30 years experience, between your nursing and your coaching. Plus I said, are you a mom? Well, yeah, I've got, a couple kids, what have you. I said, you know a hell of a lot about life coaching. So many people, when they change professions, they go into it as a brand new person. They don't take what they learned in their other position and bring it in and use it. They say, oh, geez, I'm brand new. I can't do this. I can't do that. We've got lifetime of experience. Take what you've learned in these other jobs, positions, things you've had, and use them in your new position. There is so many people that, oh God, I can't do it. And Mark, you brought up a really good point. When people are first out there, they're reaching out and saying, well, I'm not good enough. I'm not this. What people don't realize is your ideal prospects are out there waiting to buy from you. All you have to do is decide that you're good enough because you have the information they want. Your ideal prospects are out there looking to buy. But because you don't feel you're good enough, your message comes across that you're not good enough. And these people, your ideal prospects, blow right on by you. It happens so many times. You've got a great program or product that can really benefit people, but you don't feel you're good enough. Somebody else comes along without your experience, without all your knowledge and everything, and they pick these people up and they say, wow, how'd they do that? I know more than they do. Maybe, but if you don't let people know, how are they going to know? All they see is somebody out there that's fumbling and stumbling around, and you don't know what the hell to do. You brought up a really good point, Mark, about not charging enough. One of the examples I use is, in North America, Lincoln's a nice car, and I assume in other parts of the world it is. If I came to you, Mark, and said you could buy this brand new 2025 Lincoln, fully loaded, all the bells and whistles for $25,000. What's your first thoughts?
What's
What's
wrong?
wrong with it? How hot is it? And what have you, right?
Right.
I don't know what they're worth. Yep. I don't know what they're worth in the US, but here in Canada, they're $80,000+.
Yeah, a lot
So,
more.
so if you
point.
come in and you're sounding too cheap, people say, what's wrong with you? You have to charge, what you're worth. I was talking to a young man yesterday. He's in the website building business and what have you. And he said, well, I have a monthly charge. I work on people's sites for $100 a month retainer. And I said, "You're too cheap." He said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Hey, make it 250. And then when people are comfortable with 250, make it 500. He said, "I can't do that. I got to give a whole lot more." I said, "How many years have you been in this business?" "Just about 20. I said, "What's your time worth? Because all you're doing is being a high school kid giving your stuff away." I said, "These are what people will argue about the price." I said, "So send them to Fiverr. If they want a cheap deal, let them go to Fiverr." A lot of people, when they call you, they know they have a problem. They're calling you for a reason. They already checked you out. They just don't open the web and say, "Throw a dart, I'm going to talk to Mark or Peter or Dr. Annika or Alan." They check you out before they ever contact you. They're reaching out to you for a reason. And that reason is because they feel you can help them solve their problem. And if you don't show them how you can help them solve their problem without going into, well, you need to have 27 Zoom meetings a month. We got to do this 50-page workbook, and we got to do 2 years. We got to do blah, blah. That's not what they want. All they're interested in is, can you solve my problem? Show it to them in a simplistic way that they understand and say, wow, Dr. Annika can really help me with my stress. Alan can really help me move my building. Mark can help me with my marketing. Peter can help me in my coaching. There's so much out there of people that can help you, but you have to be able to show these people in simple terms that you can help them solve their problem. They're looking for your process. They're not looking for your solution or program. They want to know you have a simple process that can help them. And when we get carried away, and going back to that guy with the website, he said, well, I got to throw in all this other stuff so I can raise my price. No, you don't. You can take stuff out. If you want to have the other stuff, that's for add-ons. That's for upselling. But, you've got a valuable service. So provide it to these people. Don't try to be everything to everybody, because you're not. Like Mark says, you can joint venture with a lot of other people that can do things you can't, but they can sure help you build your business. People leave so much money on the table because they're not bothering to share it around. Oh, I got to get this. I got to do it all myself. No, you don't. That's a crock. And, the whole concept is whatever you're good at, that's what you specialize in. Don't try to be everything to everybody. Specialize in what you're good at and farm out the rest. Because I'll tell you, if you send somebody to Mark or to Peter or Dr. Annika or Alan, they say, wow, Dr. Annika is really great. She couldn't help me, but she sent me over to Peter. Is that person going to forget Dr. Annika? Not at all. They're going to think more of her because she recommended them to go to the person that really could help them. That doesn't cost you business. That gets you business. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, if they're a real tightwad and they're looking to nickel and dime you, send them to somebody you don't like. Because, hey, they're going to be a pain in the ass anyways. Pardon my English. But, I joke around with people and I say, you got to qualify to work with me. I don't qualify to work with you. And when you tell people that, that puts it in a whole different perspective. Now, the other thing is, and I tell people, and I say it with a grin on my face, if I feel you're a real pain in the ass, I'm going to give you to somebody I don't like. And they look and say, pardon? I said, because I don't want to deal with you. You know as well as I do. Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh,
And, the guy had a really shocked look on his face. I said, because I get the feeling you'd be a real pain in the ass to deal with, and I don't want to deal with it. So I'll give you to somebody I don't like. And he said, I don't want your recommendation. I said, good. We ended the call. But, that's my style. Does that work for everybody? No. Because if you're not comfortable doing something like that, you'll come across as being retarded, or pardon my English, that's not the right word, but you'll come across as being real flaky and what have you. But it's your business, ladies and gentlemen. You got to decide what it's worth to you. You got to decide who you want to work with. And you got to decide what you're going to charge. Because, again, if you come across too cheap, you're going to attract the nickel and dimers. You know, why not be in the top half, you know, at the 3/4 rate when everybody started? I don't know how many of you have ever heard of Brendan Bouchard. He's good at motivation and what have you. Well, when Brendan first started, everybody was charging $500 for a weekend seminar type thing. You know, you met on Friday night, then you did Saturday and Sunday. Brendan's first one, he charged $1,500 a head. He sold out. He did the same thing that everybody else was doing at $500, only he charged $1,500. And people asked him why, and he said after, because I'm worth it. I'm sharing this much information. And I'm not playing with the little kids. I want to play with the big boys. Ladies and gentlemen, that was all up here. He valued his services and his time at $1,500 a head rather than $500 that everybody else was charging. So again, it's in your head. Look at what you're giving, the value you got. And like Mark said, you might lose money on the front end. What's the lifetime value of your prospect or your client? That's the part that matters. It's not that single sale. It's what's the lifetime value of that person.
So, John,
Alan?
in Brendan Bouchard's change,
Yep.
you said the message you're giving, if I understand you correctly, is stop marketing ourselves as being affordable, right?
Yep.
And instead market ourselves as someone of high value.
Well, yeah. You know, people put the value on that you put out there. If you put out that you're a low value person, you're the Walmart of your industry, that's what you're going to attract.
Okay, and before we get to Alan, sorry, Alan, I just want to make sure I get this understanding right, which means you're implying, John, that we need to have a very clear definition of who our ideal client is, right?
Correct.
Otherwise we're catering to the masses.
Yeah. You know, if you want to be to Walmart, tell you you're going to take anybody and everybody as long as they got a pulse and a wallet. A pulse might not even matter, you know, as long as they got the wallet, right? But if you want high-end prospects, clients, who are they? What income bracket are they in? What jobs do they do? You know, how can you help them solve their problem?
Do you think
Having
we should
more-
have a session? Sorry, John. Beg your pardon.
Go ahead.
Just while I'm thinking, do you think we should have a session on how to actually define our ideal client? Would that be worth a session on its own?
Sure. You
Okay.
know,
All right.
because
Sorry,
let's face it, so many people, you know, they do take if you breathe and you qualify. And then they complain that, oh, geez, I got all these rotten clients. Well, you're the one that took them. The only one you got to blame is yourself. If you take clients that don't do the work, won't do anything, that's how you taught them to do it. It's okay. You don't have to do that. So that's the value that you put on your service. If you put on a crappy value, you get crappy clients. Take a look in the mirror next time you're bitching, because the person looking back at you is the one responsible for the prospects you're attracting.
Okay. Which actually, sorry, I'm coming to you. Which actually means it brings up one critical issue. That when you're talking to a potential client, the real issue is this fear of being rejected. This fear that maybe that the price you believe that you're worth, okay, this is the imposter syndrome kicking in or whatever it may be, but the price you think you are worth, they may not agree with. And if they say to you, oh, you're too expensive, all these issues are in there. Is that right, John?
You know, you're likely going to hear you're too expensive. You know, and
Right.
Peter, like your mentor and, you know, the one that you've shared with me, Ari Gelper said, you know, he was talking to a gentleman in the financial industry who was losing a ton of money. And the guy said, Ari, you're too expensive. You know what Ari said to him? Not as
You're
much
right.
as you're losing now. You know,
Yeah.
it's
But
not
he
as
also
much as you're
probably said
losing now.
something like, yeah.
Yep.
But he also probably said something, you're probably right.
Yep. And, you know, what the guy looked at was, you know, Ari quoted him $5,000 a month. The guy, oh gosh, that's a lot of money. Yep.
Yeah.
But it's not as much as you're losing now.
Yeah.
You want to keep losing it? Keep going. It's your choice. You're the one with the problem, not me. So,
Yeah.
like, you know, ladies and gentlemen, your prospect has the problem. You can either help them solve it and they're happy because they're not making an investment in you. They're making an investment in themselves. And if they don't see you as the vessel that's going to help them improve, they're not going to deal with you.
Mm.
Alan?
Hi, guys. Sorry, I had to drop off the call there. I was listening intently to what Mark was saying and the great advice. I missed out on a lot of what John was saying, but I caught the tail end of it. And what you're saying is absolutely right, John. You've got to value yourself. And the reason I dropped off the call was because I took a call from a partner we're dealing with for this project in Bath. So basically, to cut a very long story short, we got a very positive reaction from the Bath Specialised Supported Housing Commissioner. So yeah, this is all positive, all very positive. And so in terms of translating that event into what we're talking about today about valuing yourself, I have actually, just by landing this deal, which I've been working on for 2.5 years, I've created a project of value probably more than £6 million, so sort of $7.5 million around that region, and at a 20% profit margin for the company and our partners concerned, so joint development company. And we've also contributed up to 22 flats towards solving the housing crisis in the UK once we've developed them on this side. And we also are housing vulnerable and disabled people who need long-term accommodation. You know, they need living space and they need space to have carers visiting them. So, you know, my value in pulling this deal off is quite significant. And what I need to do is I need to convince my partners that that value is translatable into time that I've spent over the last 2.5 years. It's unbelievable I'm even talking about this, that it takes 2.5 years to land a deal. And there are 3 similar deals that I've got ongoing at the moment where I've created value. It's taken me about 18 months to reach a conclusion on them, to get the planning permission and so on. But we've got planning permission for 5 of the units. We've got planning application for another 4. And then in the 3rd building, which we will acquire, it's been put back a little bit, but we will acquire it in due course. There'll be possibility of another probably 15 to 20 flats. So that's 29 flats in that development of 3 buildings, plus 22 flats in this building in Bath. So that's 51 potentially. So, you know, certainly I don't like to sort of praise myself, but the value to society of creating 51 flats out of buildings that were empty is, I would have thought, very worthwhile. So even in terms of sort of social reward, there's a benefit to this to the communities that these buildings are in. So yeah, I follow absolutely. You shouldn't underprice yourself, and I definitely don't do that. I get people who say to me, like I've said to them about the fee that I would require for the first building that I've already secured, £12,000, so $15,000. Well, I've been working on it for 18 months, you know, and why anyone would think that was a lot of money when I'm actually creating a lot of value and a lot of profit from that, I don't understand. But as you say, you've got to value yourself. You've got to look in the mirror and tell yourself you're worth this and explain to other people why you're worth it.
Here's a
Alan,
question for, oh, sorry, go ahead, Dr. Annika.
no,
I
it was
didn't
me,
say
actually.
anything.
Sorry, Peter.
So, Alan, I am absolutely delighted to hear this. I know
Thanks.
how important this is to you, and I mean, you waited 2.5 years, right?
Yeah.
No one can say you were pushing it very much, right? But you stuck by the value that you are prepared to give people, and you
Yes.
believe in it.
Yeah. Yeah. I put
And
everything on the line for this one.
yeah,
And the others.
I'm so excited for you, Alan. I am really, really happy for you.
Yeah.
And it
So
means
some of
that,
the others
it means
I
that,
invested significantly in just to get them over the line.
yeah, you put it on the table, right? I mean, I think this is a beautiful story. And what it really means is that when it comes to the ideal client, right?
Mhm.
You were answering the question, does my ideal client want the cheapest or do they want the best?
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
Like if you're
Yeah.
going to have a life-saving operation, would you say you want the cheapest doctor or do you want the best one?
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. And if I can take a site or a building and I can create the maximum value from it, then it's got to be worth more than someone who will give you possibly a lesser price, but they don't create as much value from it.
Yeah. So your message, and John, I'll go back to you, but this is really important. First of all, I'm so pleased for you, Alan. But secondly, you don't compare yourself to others at all. You believe in the value that you can give to people and you charge accordingly, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I also believe in win-win solutions, and this is a win also for the vendor of this building because I've known her for 2.5 years. She's not the easiest person to deal with, and I've built a relationship with her. And by accepting my offer, she's actually getting the best price for her building. So she's looking after her family, and I know she's been very stressed recently about this sale and everything. So if it all falls into place, which it will now, we've got this meeting out of the way, then she wins as well. And I'll give you another example. Along the way, the third property in Alton that I mentioned, the one that's dropped back a bit, that fell out of bed because I offered a collaboration with the owner, the leaseholder of that building, and a few weeks ago when I met them, they decided they didn't want to collaborate anymore. They wanted to do their own thing, and they thought the land value was more than I had thought. And I said, well, look, if I couldn't get funding for it last year at the prices that I established with you then, which was a win-win, then it's not going to work at any higher values now because it's a failing business, and it's very difficult to get funding for a failing business. And to cut a long story short, I found out, first of all, he tried to ransom me for some of the land. I said, well, I don't need your ransom strip. I've got access to the site from another way. So I haven't spoken to him since, but what I've heard is that he's actually surrendered his lease. So what that means is he's gone out of business. So there won't be any payment to him from me for collaboration. We'll pick the building up for less money because the business will fail, like a lot of pubs are doing in the UK at the moment. And we put an offer in last year of 795,000 for the building. When we do the next negotiation, it'll be somewhat less. It'll probably be £100,000 less. So it shows the value of collaboration, but also it's the power of economics. You know, you can't sort of ignore values of land and value of property, and you need to know how to be able to increase those values, and that's what I do.
John, over to you.
Here's a question for you, Alan. Now with the way you're feeling about putting this program together, building together, you just got right.
Yeah.
You do this a few more times, I'd be quite willing to bet your rates are going to go up, right?
Absolutely. Yes, John. Yeah, because we'll prove to people the value that we add. Yeah, absolutely right.
You know, it's not just for the value for the group, but your own value for your negotiation skills and everything else.
Yes,
you're going to go up.
Yeah.
This is what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Because up here, Alan's value of himself has gone way up.
Yes.
This is what we need to do, ladies and gentlemen. We need to raise our own value in our heads, because as you have these successes and you can show your prospects and clients, hey, I have done blah, blah, blah. You follow what I say, you get these results. You know, I was asked a couple of years ago if I had a guarantee. And this particular individual I didn't think was going to be a client. So me being a smart ass, I said to him, you don't do the work, you don't get the results. He said to me, is that it? I said, yep. He said, where do I send the money? Oh shit, I was just being a smart ass, but it turned out to be. And from that time on, that's my guarantee. How can you guarantee what someone else is going to do? You can't.
No.
So you can be with them every step of the way. You can't do it for them, you know, unless you're in a complete do-it-yourself one, you know, or build it for them. But for the majority of us, we can't guarantee the results that people are actually going to get. We don't know their work ethics. We don't know how much effort they're going to put in or whatever else. And you know as well as I do, when things go wrong, it's not going to be their fault. It's going to be yours. They're going to blame you. So, you know, this again is where they have to qualify to work with you. And whether you actually say it or you don't say it, come across that way. Because, ladies and gentlemen, it is your business. You and you alone are responsible for the reputation that you build. If you want a good reputation, stick to your word. You know, build trust. If you want a crappy reputation, deal with the lowlifes, because that's all you're going to get anyways.
You know, I remember someone saying to me once, asking me this question, John, Peter, if I work with you, how many sessions a week will we have? How long will those sessions be? Okay. And I said, is that important? And they said, of course, that's what we're paying for. I said, really? I thought you were paying for a result. I would have thought if I could get the result you want as quick as possible, you would be happy. If you want to take 3 years to get it, that's really up to you. And that's what you're saying, John. We can't speak for how much work you put in, right? Anyway, food for thought.
Yes, definitely, Peter. It's results you want. It doesn't really matter about the time involved. It's the achievement to get that result. That's what's so important. That's why I like
2.5 years, Alan. 2.5 years, right?
Yes, yeah, three plus rounds of negotiations before, and some sort of quite complex stuff on the back end, like this meeting today that happened at midday. So it's a really great day for me.
I know, and I'm just feeling so happy for you, because you had so many balls in the air, right? And we've been hearing snippets of this in both from the Your Next Level Mastermind and from these sessions, right?
Yes.
And to hear this result today, I mean, you just made my day, Alan.
Yeah, great.
I mean,
Thank you,
Peter. I
Peter.
am just so pleased for you. Wow.
Thanks.
Mark,
Peter,
I know you've got...
Let me weigh in on something really, really quick that John touched on. It's just so powerful that I bet it went over 99% of the people who heard its head. He mentioned Louis Vuitton and Chanel. Think about these major brands and what they charge for a purse or whatever. And then think about this. Where do you think they get that stuff made?
In China.
Right. But they're charging these outrageous prices, but it's getting made in the same place. Well, how do you justify? That's the branding. That's the perception in the marketplace.
Yeah.
Here's something else John talked about. I mean, that's a whole thing we could get into anyway. But anyway, I wanted to say this, something else about John said. Remember, he propositioned me, he said, Mark, I got this car. It's a Lincoln. Its market value is $80,000. I'm going to sell it to you for $25,000. If John has the right story, that's going to work. For example, he can say this car is owned by, a woman who caught her husband of X amount of years having an affair in the car. She's got bitter memories. She wants out. This car is easily marketed for $80,000. She wants to get rid of it and get rid of the memories. She's willing to sell for $30,000. So you always heard this say by the gurus and the guruettes, Dr. Annika. Facts tell, stories sell. This is the kind of thing they're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing wrong with low prices. Alan might be offering a building at a lower price because the family's in distress. They need money. Oh, okay. That's why this $650,000 property is selling for $450,000. Now it makes sense. What you cannot do is try to use logic to justify these low prices. It's not going to work. You're going to, ladies and gentlemen, take it from me. If you don't want to take it from the rest of us, you're going to be frustrated. You're going to be burned out. And very shortly, you're out of business. Okay. So Peter, I just had to throw that in because a lot of people in business, they don't really understand what they're doing, in my opinion. John and I talked about this. Ladies and gentlemen, I've said this before. If you haven't booked with the specialist over here, John, you need to do so. And John is very modest. Let me tell you something. John is an expert on this platform called Alignable. John, I don't want to mischaracterize it, but it's like a mini version of LinkedIn. It's a little different, but it's kind of the same thing. There's business people on there, experts on there that need your help, our help. You should be on this platform. John has been teaching it to me, but John is an expert on this platform. And he said, John, you're like an ambassador or something on there too, right? So
yeah, I'm one of their ambassadors. And
tap into this man's knowledge. And you already know Peter. In fact, Peter, you mentioned something, and I'll get off, guys, because I want to turn over the floor to the rest of you. But you mentioned something, Peter, and here's something that I tell. I've had a few speaker clients, believe it or not, and they say, Mark, what should I speak about? And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Do you think you should answer that question, or the people who are going to be listening to you should answer that question? So in other words, Peter, you said, should we talk about X? I'm thinking, why don't we have a question on when they ask to enter our group? What is your number one marketing challenge, or whatever the answers are? That's our subject matter, because now we're not speculating anymore, right?
We have that question.
My shoulder hurts. Okay, well, I don't need to be doing your head and your leg. That'll come secondary. You got pain in your shoulder. Let's figure out why, Mark. What are you doing? So they will tell us what the subject matter should be. And then all we got to do is provide it. And you're going to start making, as Brian McNeil would say, money. Okay, so that's what's important. Peter, you know the old saying, we've all heard it. The good Lord gave us 2 of these and 1 of these for a reason. That's the ratio of professional users at a bare bones minimum. So if you listen to your prospects, they will tell you which direction you and I need to go. If they're not opening your emails, Mark, your subject matter, your subject line is not turning them on. It's that obvious. That headline, it's not turning them on. It's like you're trying to feed, you're trying to catch bass fish, but you don't know what they eat for bait. And you're just throwing chewing tobacco out there saying, what's wrong with these fish? There's nothing wrong with the fish. They're hungry. But you're not fishing with the right bait. And I don't mean to sound crass when I say bait, but your lead magnet, it's not sexy enough. It's not relevant enough. That's where the research comes in. So I'm done, guys. But John, when he said that, it just exploded in my mind. And I had to get that off my chest. There's so much opportunity out here, ladies and gentlemen. You just don't even begin to appreciate it right now. You really don't.
Thanks, Mark. One of the things, Peter, you said it about the number of calls. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you realize it, but your high-end clients don't want to spend a lot of time talking to you. They want to get your information, be able to put it out there and get results. They don't want to spend hours yakking at you. They couldn't care less about that. It's not they couldn't care less. What they want is they want results. They're not going to get results sitting on a phone talking to you or on a Zoom call talking to you 10 hours a week. They want to get your information, get out there and get something done, make it happen. And like Mark's just been saying, hey, your headline grabs their attention. I don't know if any of you ever seen Vanity Magazine or if it's in your part of the world or not, but it's on all the newsstands here in North America. I don't know if you realize that they spend 70% of their time just picking out the headlines that are going to go on that cover. The next 20% is the first paragraph of the article. That's going to make you want to keep reading. The last 10% is the article itself. The actual article itself is way down there. They have to get your headline that grabs their attention. The first paragraph makes them want to keep reading. Then the body of it comes down. And don't forget, at the end, you got to have a call to action. If you don't have a call to action, you just wasted a ton of time because it's not going to do you any good. So your call to action has to make one of people say, click on that button. Send me that email. Send me that lead magnet you got. You have to create that curiosity for them to want it.
Good, John. Mark, by the way, when people join this community, right, we do ask that question, what is your number one challenge? And there's also a post in this group, I'm pretty sure, asking that same question, but valid point. And I think you're right. We should ask the customer rather than us decide, right? But even now, just listening to what everyone is saying, I've got this already for potential topics we should talk about. Who should be my ideal client? Who are they? Personal branding, how do you do that? Why is it important? Storytelling secrets, how do you do it? How to create
let me tell it.
Yeah. How to create sorry, beg your pardon.
Go ahead, Peter. I was just being a smart ass.
And I mean, I've just got these are the last 5 minutes. How to create irresistible calls to action. These are all topics we can have in this community. I just picked that up from listening to what you had to say. So, and the
Alan,
idea
after you, I'm sorry, Alan, after you, I got something really powerful to share after you.
Oh, sure.
Shall I speak? Okay. Well, I just wanted to mention briefly about something I mentioned. I think you were on the meeting about persuading people about a different way of working. The fact that if you do things the way you've always done them, you'll always get the results you got. And I was trying to convince this lady architect who I know about a different way of working. It's a sort of partnership. And that's what my company does. And it adds value because we take low value property and we convert it into high value property. And what we do is we create wealth, we create profit from this, but also we take responsibility. So development is quite complex, and it's becoming more complex in the UK because of various restrictions. There's been a massive fire at Grenfell. You may have heard about it, where a lot of people died, and this came about because people who developed buildings were actually shortcutting the rules, and they weren't putting in the right building products to the code requirements. So essentially there was a massive fire in which a lot of people lost their lives, and there's a big reaction to this. And what is coming about is a need for more responsibility on the part of designers and constructors to do things properly. And what we do as my company is we partner with clients, and we can actually open our books to them and demonstrate how we expend money, all within agreed cost parameters, and how we create the product which is compliant with all the code regulations. So what I'm describing is my differentiator as Alpus Group. why should people work with my brand? They'll say, oh, well, I can go and get a contractor to do work cheaper down the road. Well, yeah, go and do that. Fine. And good luck with that, because there are lots of problems when people always go to the cheapest price. And what I'm doing is I'm offering an ethical company and a partner to actually develop properties and to create wealth from them and create useful products for society. So I just wanted to mention that it's all about how you perceive yourself, and that's what I think I do. And that's the message that I'd like to get out to more and more people, because it is absolutely a new way of working. There aren't any people that I know of that actually would operate this way. Thank you, Peter.
Can I ask you a personal question, Alan?
Sorry?
Can I ask you a personal question?
Of course, yeah.
You just said it's how you perceive yourself. Did I hear you correctly?
Yes.
How you perceive yourself. My question to you is, with this win that you've just had, do you feel a level of confidence has increased in you?
Definitely, yes, because I've influenced a lot of people to go down this route with my company, and some of these people are quite high up in the development world. Like Simon Zucchi is one of the top investors in property in the UK, and he actually owns a bank, largely owns a bank. And I think by doing this particular development in partnership with him and Creed Housing and the other partners we got for the social housing, it will actually increase our profile tremendously, and we'll get our message out about how we operate, and get our message out about win-win solutions, ethical development, and doing things. There's something called the golden thread, which I won't explain here. We'll maybe do it on another call. But what it's about keeping a continual thread of safety from the design stage through to the completion and operation of buildings. And it's all tied up with taking responsibility and acting ethically. And absolutely, we're not the cheapest, but we will always get the job right.
Right, but it's all part of the valuation you place on yourself and the belief that you have in the results that you can generate for people. That's my point.
I believe that I can generate the best results. Yes.
Right, and once you've got a win like this is a result that cements that even more for you. That's my point.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So this will be the fourth project potentially. So that's already starting to be a track record.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Alan. John.
Thank you,
Alan. May I offer a suggestion to you?
Yeah.
Eliminate the word convincing out of your vocabulary, because when you try to convince somebody, a person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still.
Yes, you're right.
What you want to do is you want to show these people a valued partnership that can enhance their deal, right? You're not there to convince them. You're there to show them a partnership.
Yes, absolutely right. Yes, it was a poor choice of words on my part.
Yeah. But even in your thinking, right, when you're meeting with these people, you're thinking, I got to convince them. Throw that word out. You're not there to convince anybody, because you want to work with people that want to work with you. So you're there to share an opportunity which can benefit them, and make it all about them, not you.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. You're right, because they win out of it. What I like to achieve is win-win solutions. So that they win out of this. I had a conversation recently, and I just let it go because the person I was speaking to didn't get what I was talking about. So I thought, well, fine, just go do what you've always done, and you'll get what you've always got.
No, and it was just picking up on the word convincing, because that gives a negative connotation.
You're right, John. I'm very careful to omit that from future conversations. You're right.
Eliminate it right out of your thinking.
Yeah.
Convince and persuade. Get rid of both those words.
Yes.
That means you're manipulating people.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like to influence people, and I like to demonstrate to them how I can do things and how I can help them. So you're absolutely right. I'm not very clued up on that sort of terminology, but yes, you're absolutely right to pull me up on that. Yeah.
Let me
Here's
describe you. Let me describe you, Alan. You actually empower people. That's what John's implying.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
empower people. And when you empower people, they make a decision based on the guidance and the integrity that you have shown them. And that's
Yes.
a whole different ballgame.
Yes. Yes. You're absolutely right. Thank you.
you
Yeah.
know when you
It's so useful having these conversations with experts like yourselves. Yeah. It's brilliant.
Alan, when you use words like convince and persuade,
Mm.
they're, if you think of the terms like Mark was saying about fishing,
Yeah.
convince and persuade are hunting words.
Yes.
It comes across, it's all about you. You want to
Yeah.
make the deal. You're out there hunting, whatever. But if you
Yeah.
go fishing, that's
Mm.
where you're out there, you're throwing the bait out into the water and you're
Mm.
looking to attract your ideal prospects. So
Yeah.
think of, even if it helps you to put them into hunting words and thinking words, or
Mm.
fishing words rather. One, it's all about you. The other
Mm.
one, it's about them.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I get it, John. Thank you.
And this is, I mean, we should bring this to a halt, John, pretty soon, I think. But think about this. Think about this. The topic was, are we charging what we're worth, right? Let me rephrase that as a question, not as a statement. If you don't believe in what you're charging, neither will your clients.
Mm-hmm.
Think that through. Okay. Annika, you got some other thoughts before we wind it up?
No, I'm listening and listening, and and I do like that the last part here with don't use these words, convince and persuade, because it reminds me of all the other words. You're not. It takes some time to get it out of your brain. But another word that I know I used a lot in the beginning, and that I know people use, is I have this little company, I have this little business, and I started to hear this little all over the place, and I realized, okay, I don't have a little business, I have a business. And I also tell people in a nice way, if I can, if they use it, because you're downgrading yourself.
Well said. Well said.
It's 9 o'clock here, or, the hour is up. So thank you for everybody that's here. Alan, Annika, Mark, Peter, for those of you that watch this replay, have a pen and paper out, because there's a ton of golden nuggets that have been dropped by everybody. And listen to it more than once, because if you go through it once, you're going to miss a lot. So, listen to it 2 or 3 times. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your participation, and all those that watch.